welcome, Maurizio, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about my personal, because I spoke with you for the third time. The first time when we spoke about the last album from Cataclysms, last year from last album from XDO, and now your personal record from with Invictus. So how do you feel during these 3 years? You're a very busy man, 3 new albums, a lot of projects. So you already did a full tour with the ES side in US. So how are things going?
I don't know. I'm crazy. I like to keep busy, you know. So I'm always needing of doing something, you know. And during the pandemic was difficult for me because I'm a workaholic. You know, I work, you know, I have a management company also where I work with a lot of bands. I have a label. I started a label during the pandemic because I was like, let me do something that I can do from home, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm just very hands-on type of person. And this project was born out of the, you know, pandemic, because, you know, we already had the Cataclysm record finished, as you know, and that was already ready to go before the pandemic hit. And then we had the XDO record that we already written half of it. So all this stuff came out during the pandemic, but then there was still, you know, still shut down, still time. And I decided, well, always wanted to do a type of project that was a little different from everything I'm doing, that has a lot more of my early influences and stuff like that, a bit more personal to me. So I decided to work on this Invictus record, and we had the time to do it. So that's why it's here, you know.
Yeah, okay. So I've been reading in your biography that Invictus has again the collaboration with your always guitar player Jean-Francois. So why do you all the time pick your guitars? Why do you don't decide to change perhaps other guitars in the world?
Well, on this specific project, we do have, it is a little different because Chris Clancy is actually the main writer.
Okay.
So he wrote a lot of the guitar arrangements, and you know, he's on the bass in the video and on the recording of the album, but he actually wrote a lot of the record. He was the main writer on it out of the UK. He used to be in Mutiny Within. And JF is just that guy that, you know, I've been working with him since we were teenagers in high school. So, you know, we're talking 3 decades ago. So we are every time I play music, I don't see myself playing without him. You know, he's always been my right hand man. And in this album specifically, he put his touch in places. You can tell when some of those riffs that are very JF come in. But in general, it was more of a Chris Clancy type of writing on this album with me, obviously, together, you know. So, but you know, I always promised him, if I do a project, you always have the first choice to say yes or no to JF, you know. So he likes to work, so same thing.
Okay. Talking about the composition, you say you told me that Chris Clancy was the main composer here, with you. But how is the method to compose the song from Invictus? Because in Cataclysms it's JF to compose the rhythmic part, the arrangement, this kind of stuff, and with you too. And in XL, but how are you doing the composition process? Do you think like this kind of aspect where when you don't play guitar and just see with the mouth, please do this
Right.
riff in the guitar? So how is it going with this aspect?
Yeah, well, I know how to you know, play some guitar and bass, so I do write like that. But I do have ideas like that sometimes where I'll call him at 11 o'clock at night and I said, hey, I got this idea, you know, so let's try it. And then he's so good at just kind of picking your brain, you know, and understanding what you're doing. So, you know, we do work in that fashion together. But I always have a very good vision of where I'm going to go, you know, with an album. And for Invictus, I had the plan already. Was very angry during the pandemic. I don't like government overreach. You know, I don't like things that are pressured too much on people. And I felt that there was a lot of weird stuff happening around this stuff. And so I kind of, you know, this record is very emphasis on freedom of speech and freedom of choice, you know, like in the end. 2 basic rights that I think we have to protect. And there's a lot of kind of underlying about that. But in general, it's also a very personal record for me, going into my childhood, and a little stuff in there that has to do with, you know, fighting back in society, you know. So I'm very rebel in that aspect of things. You know, I'm not a conformist, so it's like, you know, I think that's most metalheads are like that. So I think they will enjoy this record. You know.
Great to know. So the next question going with that road, because you talk about the struggle. I reading the well, the biography said that you into the lyrics talk about self-view, free thinking singer, this kind of aspect, or the struggles in general that you have during the all your career, during the musician as a person. So what if we try to relate the name Invictus over those Invictus, because you are a free man in this kind of aspect, and Unstoppable, this is a great name to put an album name. So how you relate the struggles with an Unstoppable name and with the Invictus name?
Well, you know, I'm big into the Roman history, right? So Invictus for me is like a mythological type of you know, in the Roman times, they used to worship the sun. And they used to call it Sol Invictus, which is the sun is the unconquered soul, you know, because it's the most powerful and most important thing for life on earth. So for me, it was always like it's a sign of freedom, you know, the sun. And then that's why for me it was important always, you know, because it's the one thing you can never change or unconquer, you know, or conquer for some reason. And I think that's the Invictus symbol idea comes from that, you know. And I had it tattooed on my arm already for years, you know, since I think 2007 or 8, I did it. And I was like, well, I need a name. This makes sense. The only problem with that name is that there's so many out there that use this name, also the movie and all this stuff. So on the algorithm side, it was not easy for this band because there's so many Invictuses out there using this name, you know. But, you know, it's, for me, it was personal. That's why I used it. And it goes hand in hand with Unstoppable, you know. I'm a type of person that if a door is locked, if I see that there's an opportunity that I really want and it's locked, I will find a way to open that door. You know, if I have to break it, I'll break it. You know, it's like I'm just very determined type of person. So I've always been like that. So it's kind of goes hand in hand for this album. Yeah.
Okay. One phrase that you said about this Invictus record is that it's a real record and it's not afraid of anything because it's an unstoppable record. So what are you use this a real record if we compare with the XD record and the Cataclysm record?
Okay, so Cataclysm is more, it's a social based album, you know, band in the lyric department, right? So, but it's written in a way that is open. So you can read the lyrics and for you it means something. You know, I write it with an idea behind it, but for you, it might mean completely something different, you know. When I wrote, for example, a long time ago in an album called Epic Manipulator of Souls, I wrote a song called like that. And that song for me was more about almost like somebody that was taking advantage of my goodness, you know what I mean? But other people were writing me and it's like, that song saved my life because I was addicted to drugs. You know, and that was the Manipulator of Souls for me. So Cataclysm is kind of an open book, you know, where you can read the lyrics and for you it means something different. So it's very open. Ex Deo obviously follows historic events. It follows something that has happened, that is real, you know, and that it's kind of like a poetic type of version of putting that on an album. So I really enjoy history. So that for sure was going to happen at some point. And Invictus is just kind of more personal to the point. I'm writing the lyric and I'm writing it for a reason. You know, there is something in the message behind it that is for me important that I write as I feeling it, you know, so it's more personal to me, this album.
Okay. So, and how was the work with Jeremy, Jeff and Chris Klassen together, because they are musicians from different parts of music, this different kind of style, and you are the main brain in Invictus. So how is this working with all these kind of music of different styles?
Well, for example, I worked very closely with Chris Clancy, you know, so every day we were exchanging ideas and it went really smooth. The only problem, not a problem, but it took a year to put this album together. And usually we would do it much shorter time than that. But the reason is because of our schedules and because he's very busy. He's a producer, works with Colin Richardson. He worked on the last Machine Head album. So he's very busy. type of guy. So every time we were able to kind of get together, a song would come up quickly. So the chemistry was there, right? So between me, him, and JF, it was easy to put the record together. And then obviously we already had ideas for drums. And then when I know Jeremy lives here in Florida, close to me, he lives in Tampa, and I was like, hey, I need a drummer. Were you interested? You know, and he also has experience. Obviously, he works with Venom Inc. and he also is with The Absence and a bunch of bands. So it was an easy fit. He's a good friend, and the chemistry came together really well, easy. So that's the good thing. For me, an album, you know, that is too complicated to put together, it does not come together easily, has some flaws. You know, I believe in that, because if you force something, it's never going to be what it's supposed to be. You know, I think that it's good to arrange things and mess with it, but it still needs to be a natural progression, that it comes together easily, you know, and the song is done, you know. And I mean, I've written songs for Cataclysm that we wrote in 2 hours, like Shadows and Dust. You know, that song in Shadows and Dust was written in 2 hours and is a massive hit for the band. But then we have songs that we've taken, you know, weeks to write, and there's nowhere near a song like Shadows and Dust, you know. So I think it has to be natural, you know, when you do it.
Okay. One aspect that I read always in your the biography is that you have some slaps from Machine Head and Fear Factory like influence into this new album. But for me, when I know your music since the beginning, from Catholic Listen now from Next Deal, for me this new album, for your first records in solitary, right? If we can say this, so it's for me it's more Swedish melodic death metal. So. And it's for me it's impossible not to relate. It's a real record, because when I spoke last year with you, you told me that you are fascinated with the melodic death metal from Swedish. So this album is more melodic Swedish death metal for me.
There is. I mean, I'll never be able to take away the death metal in me. You know, that's who I am. You know, and I think deep inside that's always going to be there. But I do think that this record has a more commercial feel. You know, it's obviously there's clean vocals also in it. There's different approaches to the music, the way it's written. I wasn't afraid of saying, if we wrote something and it sounds a little bit like Fear Factory, we were like, that's cool. We don't want to change it in the sense, oh, it sounds a bit too much like Fear Factory and Machine Head. We dived in it, because that's kind of like the DNA of this band. It's all these different influences from the early days. But obviously, there's going to be probably some at the gates in there. There's going to be some influences from that world. You know, obviously, that's the stuff I like. You know.
Yes, even when you use the clean vocals in the first song, for me it's like a soul work for In Flames from the 90s, when they use clean vocals, or like Dark Tranquility when they use clean vocals. So that's why I try to relate Machine Head in my head and Fear Factory, and for me you don't have this. You have more always, but it's more.
That's great. No, that's great. I mean, like I said, I don't hide from any of my influences, and like again, that's why there is different critics, right? They listen to it and they see different things. So you're seeing this. I can relate to it. I know there is for sure some of that influence in there. You know, there's also some real old school death metal riffing. You know, even Exile has some of those. You know, Exile is got death metal riffing that it could have been from Unleashed. You know, like there's all kinds of different touches in it. You know.
Okay. What's talking about and special about your taste into this Swedish melodic death metal? So why for you it's wonderful? Why that Swedish style is amazing you since the past to now?
I just think you know, they did something different. Their you know, was not matched in other places in the world, in my opinion. Like they're still, you know, when it's a Swedish band that does the melodic death metal, it's even if other bands try to copy it from America or from anywhere, it'll never be like that. They just have that touch, you know. And the same way as the Finnish have that also melodic, but it's different, you know. You can tell the bands coming from Scandinavia versus the bands coming from other places. It's just something in the water there, maybe, you know. It is what it is, you know. The only band I find it was kind of close a little bit was Carcass, when the albums like Heartwork and stuff like that was a little bit melodic, kind of touching a little bit that world, but still it's not like the Swedish, you know. They have their own world, you know. So
yeah.
And even if I do it and it sounds, you know, if I have some influence from it, even then it's still not going to be sounding like them. It has an idea, but it's still not, exactly like that.
Great, great. So in this aspect about the composition, about the new ways to compose music, is the artificial intelligence now in the music, in the art in general, as you can. So why don't you decide to use a drum machine, a guitar machine? Because now it's possible if we compare with the 80s and 90s when that is not possible. You create the drummer like I don't know. For example, like the ancient wisdom from Sweden is like a electronic drum play. But now you can use the technology. If we talk about your this is your personal record. Invictus is a personal record, a personal band. So why do you use an artificial intelligence in this new album?
Yeah, I think I'm too real for that, man. It's like I need to have real instruments. It's just to me, I think there comes a point where like I prefer not to play music if it becomes all robot like. It's just already the fact that we're all on digital music wise is already bothering me. I'm happy that in metal at least people still buy CDs and vinyls and t-shirts and things like that, but in other styles of music they don't buy anything like that anymore. They're just digital. So I come from a different era of time, and I still believe that that's important, to have a real band there. You can use some technology. I mean, we program drums when we're writing because we have to have some sort of beat behind it to write and to understand what we're doing. But then the drummer decides what he wants to put, so we still have that human touch. The human touch has to remain in music. The moment that completely disappears, we don't have a real music anymore, in my opinion.
Yes,
it
yes,
depends
yes.
how you define it, but a human soul versus a robot is not the same.
Yes, yes. But as I told, as you see, what's your opinion about this program about the create art now, DALL-E, that create the art with your just words, and this software create a piece of art in whatever range that or whatever way that you want. What's your opinion that the artificial intelligence now, I think completely changed the way of see the music, the art for the future. So well,
I'm not a fan of it. So it's like, again, it's for me, there's an organic importance to all of it. There's an organic importance to what you do. Like we're still humans. I know that we're going there no matter what. Look, the cars are changing. My neighbor has a Tesla. He doesn't even drive it. He just sits in the Tesla and it drives him everywhere. So I want to drive my car. Like I want to feel it. And I want to control it. And it's to me, I don't want to be lazy like that either. To have the world do everything for me. I'm just not the type of person to be that. I think at some point humanity is going to feel useless, because they're not going to do anything. Like everything's going to be done, for them. And I don't think that's what we're meant to be, to be honest.
Okay. So how are you dividing your time? Because you said, well, I know that you work with artists management, distortion music group. You have new 3 bands, and sometimes you are featuring into old bands. How do you manage this time? Because for a person, for me, it's impossible to manage to this kind of aspect. Managing, touring, bands, composing, writing, playing a road. Wow, a busy day. I think you have.
Well, I work when I'm on the road as well. My laptop goes on. I'm in the tour bus and I work. I close my tour bus. I go on the stage. I sing. I come back, have a beer. I chill with the guys. Go to sleep. Do it again the next day. So I always find a way to do everything. I am trusting more people now to help me in my jobs. Like for a record label, I have hired people. I'm hiring people also on management to help me so that I have more time for creativity, because it's important for me. But yeah, I think at some point I will choose less things, because I also have 3 kids and I'm married, and I have a family. And so for me, it's important that I spend time there too. So at some point there will be a little bit less of certain things,
Okay. So talking about, I think the next question is very impossible to answer, especially when artists like you, that you say that the more organic stuff, and the music is more when I spoke this question, I asked you, but the last year when singles and the albums comparison, but we are 2 years, the last I spoke with you last year, and now the digital and the singles are more predominant in the era, especially the digital platforms. So if we try to relate with the aspect of talking about people of, well, 15 or 20 years old, so which songs for you capture the whole essence from this record? One song.
Like one song on this album that grabs everybody.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, so there's not one song that's going to grab like everybody as far as the like. I mean, there's not one song that will emphasize the entire record, in my opinion, because it's too diverse. There's too many stuff. But I think I think a song like Weaponized has everything in it that would relate to everybody, because it's even catchy enough to go get the people that are not completely into extreme stuff. But I think Weaponized is a big one on the record that has a lot to offer as far as the reach is concerned. But I mean, it depends, it's there's a lot of generations, like you said, and of people that are into a lot of different things, so if they like the clean vocals and have songs like Eagles, that's very, very popular. I think on the record, that's going to be one of the singles that will be coming out as well. So it's a tough question, man, so it's I would say Weaponized and Eagles, the two tracks, I think, kind of cover everything. I'd have to be 2 songs. Okay. So do you think to go on tour with Invictus, perhaps and a full tour with Cataclysm and with XDO, because it are the same musicians, all the musicians there are the same, just Jeremy and Charlie are different, and XDO has other members, but it's possible to go on tour with 3 bands because two of them are into the 3 band. Yeah. So Cataclysm will remain the band that we tour with, because that's the band that we are, that's our baby, and that's the one, that we are going to push. XDEO's done some touring and some shows, but it's very difficult to tour with XDEO because XDEO has an entire theatrical aspect to it, and live it takes a lot of space on a stage, and it's very difficult to organize it perfectly. So that band, I don't know if we will tour much in the future with it. Invictus, I leave it open. We'll see. I'm open if there's a good opportunity for it, but it's not necessary to do it, so we'll see. If people want it, then we can look at it, but it definitely would be fun to do some shows with that, we'll see.
And the big question, will you continue a new work with Invictus or not? Or perhaps this is just one record and then I will dedicate to other bands?
Maybe if there's another pandemic, I have time, No, I'm going to see what the results will be of this record and how it feels. And then maybe at some point, then one more, but maybe not. I don't know. But it was necessary to do it at the time that I did it. So, and we are very happy with the album. I think it's a very strong record. We just have to see if it's something that opens up more doors, I'm always open to things. So I never shut the door on anything,
Okay. Oh, we're very close in this interview, Mauricio. And what are the future plans that you have for this new album? Perhaps, who knows? You said that it's probably a 2, who knows? Or perhaps in common with perhaps a new album with Cataclysm, with XD, because Cataclysm present us a last album 2 years ago, and now you have 2 more records with XD, and now Invictus. Perhaps you have a full tour. Who knows?
So right now we're gonna finish. This record comes out in October, right? The Invictus. So we have a new single that's coming out October 4th for a song called "Bleed Me Out." So that's gonna come out on October 4th, and then we have another video that we're gonna be working on shooting for this album for Eagles. So we have 4 singles in total for the album. Then it comes out. We're gonna keep promoting this record for this year. We're going to launch a merchandise line for it as well, an apparel line for Invictus. We are in the process of working on a new Cataclysm record as well right now. So we have a lot of stuff going on, like usual. We have some touring involved next year for Cataclysm mainly. So we see, like I said, I'm I put a lot of things in front of me and then I decide which direction to take, but we definitely have a lot of work ahead of us, So we're not doing anything, for example. We are very busy. So there's no problem for that end, Creativity is there. As long as we have the creativity and there's bullshit around the world, we're going to have music.
Yes. Okay. Nice to hear that. So,
Yeah.
well, Maurizio, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you
Mhm.
enjoyed this one. Like me, as usual, it's a great pleasure to talk with you. This is the
Very
last
much.
album, Unstoppable. It's a great one. I love the old vibe sound from Swedish style. I really
Yeah.
love music since the beginning.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans, because you have a lot of Latin American fans
Yes, we do.
and
Yeah.
Metallirum followers.
Well, we will see you in Latin America in May next year. We will be announcing a tour. It's going to be the same tour we did in the US with Deicide. So that will come in South America and all of Latin America in May next year. So we look forward to seeing all you crazy motherfuckers again.
Great to know. I hope I hope you will play here. You will play in Mexico. You will play in Mexico and Peru, because the magazine is in both. I
We
hope.
will play both. Yeah, I saw it on the tour dates. So there will be
Okay.
2 or 3 shows in Mexico, and Lima is playing. It will be also on the package. So
Great.
that's the plan. That's the
Great.
plan.